Why are you listening?
Why are you different?
Why are you here?
Why are you connected?
Why are you inspired?
Why are you tuned in?
Why are you on CJRU?
Hello, welcome to YRU. I'm Peyton, and this week we will be guiding you through our experiences of our mental well-being. Myself, Annika, and Lalo invite you into our thoughts and minds this week. Let's get started.
I'm Lalo, and I suffer from anxiety, even though I have only just realized that I have probably suffered from it all my life. Recently, I looked up anxiety, and one definition said it's an emotion characterized by an unpleasant state of inner confusion and feeling upset, often seen in nervous behavior such as pacing back and forth, lack of sleep, and rumination. Anxiety disorders include panic disorder and social anxiety, which I think I probably have. I have mild autism, and I believe it is very common for people who have autism to suffer anxiety. There are many factors that add to my anxiety. If I'm in a situation that I don't know how it will play out or changes at the last moment, I start to panic and not think clearly. I also panic if something doesn't turn out the way I expected it should. I also suffer anxiety when I'm writing a test. Exams are the absolute worst for me, and I often fail them or do very badly no matter how much I study. I can also get very anxious if I'm in a group of people because I fear that I might miss important information if there are too many people talking at the same time. So how do I cope? Sometimes I withdraw from everyone by going to a different room, or sometimes I just withdraw by not paying attention and thinking about something else. I also go on a little walk or on an outing to clear my head. Outings often relax me because I don't have to worry about anything in that moment. I listen to music I like or watch videos about topics that interest me. Despite being anxious, I'm generally a happy person, and I usually find a way to enjoy myself and not worry. Unfortunately, sometimes my coping mechanisms aren't enough. I am a film production student at York University, and last fall, I suffered anxiety more than ever. There was a lot more group work, it was new and very technical, and there was one project where I was in charge. It was all too much for me, and it lasted for months. I felt nauseous a lot of the time, couldn't eat in the mornings, and in general, just didn't feel like going to school. I also felt very negative. At one point, I considered leaving school for the sake of my mental health. Since the things that helped me cope with my anxiety weren't working, I went to see a counselor. One of the things he recommended was for me to get more sleep, take deep breaths, and maintain a positive attitude. Another thing the counselor recommended me to do as a film student is look up tutorials online. He told me that it would be useful to me since I was feeling so anxious in the class that I couldn't concentrate. He also told me to remember that I shouldn't put too much pressure on myself because there isn't one way to get my goals, and that I should try to figure out what works best for me. Anyway, I learned a lot about myself, and I hope that the next time I'll be better prepared.
Sometimes I feel so happy. Sometimes I feel so sad. Your pale blue eyes.
Hello, and welcome back. Joining with me to talk about anxiety is my mother, Carol Paston, and Mom, thank you for agreeing to talk.
Thanks. I'm very happy to be here.
As you know, the topic that I've been discussing is anxiety, and I've explained how it has affected me, and I wanted to ask, does anxiety affect you as well, or are you affected by it as well?
I do actually suffer from anxiety, and sometimes a lot of anxiety. And I guess I could tell you about where I think it comes from. First of all, I should say that I haven't always been aware of the fact that I suffer from a lot of anxiety. It's taken me, I guess, a lot of my adulthood to figure that out. And I think because it all started when I was so young, when I was a child, I think it's just always been part of me. So I wasn't aware of it. When do you think you started to become aware of the fact that you suffer from anxiety?
Last fall, I started to suffer anxiety more than ever, and it wasn't pleasant at all, but right now I've been feeling fine.
So last fall was probably a period where you had the most intense anxiety that I've witnessed. But were you conscious of the fact you were feeling so much anxiety, or did you, like, the whole time, or did it become more apparent to you, like, later on when it got really bad?
Now, in all my life, I'm not sure when I've suffered anxiety. I'm sure I've noticed it a few times, but last fall, I think I was very well aware of it. And now you say you suffer an anxiety as well, so do you think it's genetic? And do you think it's genetic for yourself as well?
I do. I think there is a genetic component to it because, when I think about it, my dad, who's gone now, but he, I think, suffered from anxiety as well. You know, we are human beings, you know, we are part genetics and also part result of our environment and our experiences, and it's all very complex, but I do think there's a genetic component. But for me, I sort of mentioned that something happened in my childhood. When I was 6, my family lived in Chile. That's my background. And when I was 6 years old, there was a military takeover in our country, and the military ripped up the Constitution and killed the president and took over government, destroyed our democracy. And a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people, men and women, were imprisoned and tortured and executed. And your grandfather, my dad, he was imprisoned and tortured. And that happened when I was 6, and it was a very terrible, it was this horrible thing that happened to everyone, and our family was very much affected. A lot of my dad's friends and colleagues were executed. Luckily we didn't lose my dad, but it was just a horrible time. And I was 6 years old, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but I felt the terror that everyone else was feeling. And I remember the soldiers, walking around with machine guns, and I remember the jets flying low over our houses to instill terror. And I remember, my father being detained. It was highly traumatic, and I probably suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome. I've never been formally diagnosed, but I suspect that experience has just really formed me. And I think that most of my anxiety comes from that time, that period of time. It made it very, very difficult throughout my life to trust. So I think your anxiety, Lalo, is kind of, it doesn't come from an event that was really traumatic for you. You never experienced war and upheaval like that. But I think probably a lot of your anxiety, part of it comes from the fact that you have autism, and children and young people and adults with autism all do tend to suffer from anxiety. Yeah, so anxiety can come from so many different places, not just, events or genetics. I think the important thing, though, is to know that there's ways to cope. Do you want to talk a little bit about last fall and what you've learned from that experience? Do you think you've learned how to cope with your anxiety?
Honestly, I'm not sure if I learned to cope with that, because I think certain moments of stress like that can change or vary.
No, it's true. They're not all the same. Not every circumstance is the same. So you have to figure out how to deal with the circumstances that you find yourself in. But there are things that you do to help lower your anxiety.
I'm very well aware of my coping mechanisms, but question is, if I do end up suffering anxiety again, will it be the same as last time or something different, but with coping mechanisms that I use will not work? That part I'm not sure.
One of the things I really, really hope that we learned, and that you specifically learned from last fall when we went to see the counselor, is that there's ways of coping. So sometimes when we're feeling super anxious, we just get very negative and we feel like it's never going to end. But I hope you know that it can be a momentary thing, and that there's lots of things to do to help you, and lots of people and lots of support out there to help you cope with anxiety. Like my own coping mechanisms, I do a lot of yoga, which I find extremely relaxing, and just, getting into my own head in a very relaxing way and doing the breathing is all really good for me. I know you don't do yoga, you do other things to relax. But another thing that I do is that I talk to the people I love, in particular my husband. And I find that reaching out and communicating, what it is that I'm feeling is really helpful to me. And I hope you know that it's really important to reach out to the people that are your support system.
Well, thank you for that. And I think that's about it. So, Mom, thank you for doing this.
I really enjoyed it. I hope it's been helpful.
I think it has been very helpful, and that is it for my segment on anxiety. Thank you.
I don't understand why people come and go, or why they don't ever know. I don't never wanted this. Never this.
I've been labeled with obsessive compulsive disorder. I know that in this day and age, being a perfectionist is considered to be a good thing at times. So telling someone you have OCD doesn't necessarily make you sound like an outcast. Sometimes the other person will just laugh and say, "Me too," thinking that my OCD isn't as serious as it is. When I say I have OCD, I mean that it controls my life. My day is broken down into sections. Each section has a written list. This is the morning list. Check phone messages, missed calls, and snail mail. Use massage roller for back pain. Check email, Facebook. Play 10 minutes of brain games. Review my schedule for the day, including whether I have specific messages for different people at whichever location I'm going to that day. Apply eyelash conditioner, sunscreen, 2 moisturizers, aloe vera and shea butter on my hands, oil on my nails, rinse my mouth, floss, clean up my breakfast items, set my alarm clock, listen to a recording of me going to a music lesson, listen to a French show, wash my face for 2 minutes, dry my hair after I wash my face, apply lip balm, wear a headband, wear hair down, put baby powder in my slippers, brush my teeth for 12 minutes, rinse my mouth out 6 times with plain water, check to see if I have enough toothpaste or do I need to buy more. After toothbrushing, turn toothbrush on again to make sure battery power is sufficient. Apply face toner, put shea butter on the tips of my hair, put aloe vera on my face, brush This whole routine, the time taken to do it plus the time taken to make sure that I've done it, totals about 2.5 hours. If I'm putting in this amount of energy just to get ready in the morning, you can imagine the amount of energy I'm exerting throughout the day. If one asks the reasons for why I'm compelled to do these sorts of routines, I say it's because I'm seeking perfection. Physical perfection primarily. I want to feel as though I'm doing everything I can to improve my appearance. I think seeking perfection in the realm of physical appearance is so important to me because when I look good, I feel better about myself. Another feeling I get from completing my to-do lists is the feeling that I have done everything and that everything is taken care of. I don't like feeling as though there are things for me to do and I'm not doing them. I want to do them so they're done and so I can move on to fun things. Because my list of to-dos is so long, I never have time to do things that I enjoy doing. The definition of OCD, defined by Psychology Today, is an anxiety disorder in which people have unwound and repeated thoughts, feelings, ideas, sensations, or obsessions, or behaviors that make them feel driven to do something, or compulsions. Often the person carries out the behavior to get rid of the obsessive thoughts, but this only provides temporary relief. Not performing the obsessive rituals can cause great anxiety. OCD affects approximately 2.2 million American adults according to Psychology Today. Prozac is an antidepressant that is commonly prescribed to people who are diagnosed with having OCD. The claimed science behind Prozac, according to drugs.com, is that it stabilizes an unbalanced chemical level in the brain. This therefore implies that people with OCD have an imbalance of said chemical and therefore behaves the way they do. I argue that we are all born perfect, and that no chemical imbalances are present when we are babies. As we get older and feel the pressures that come with that, we may get more anxious. This constant anxiety that we feel may spike the amount of serotonin in one's brain, causing an imbalance, but it is not something that we have innately. It's something that we develop. I don't see myself carrying out this painful and tedious lifestyle for much longer. Change is not just something of fantasy, but one of necessity for me. I see my life getting smaller and smaller because of all that I feel that I need to do. It pulls me apart from those who surround me and makes me feel very isolated. I want to continue growing as a person in a more civilized way, where I allow myself to make mistakes and learn from them like everybody else, as opposed to putting a huge burden on myself for no reason. I know how much my family loves and supports me in this endeavor, and I am very lucky that I have such a great support system. I have to remember that. I have a life motto, which is that we shouldn't strive for perfection, as we are all perfect already.
Now it's time for me to practice what I preach.
Thanks this week to my co-contributors who developed the show this week, Annika and Lalo. Special thanks to Rhonda Ondal, Audrey Thompson, and Sandy Wynia-Katz of the Ontario Provincial Advocate's Office for Children and Youth, and Michael Newton and Jackie Toonstra here at The Scope at CJRU. The views and opinions expressed in the show do not necessarily represent those of the Ontario Provincial Advocate's Office for Children and Youth. Thanks for joining this week. I'm Peyton Haley, and this is YRU.